Hello and welcome to the Sales Experts channel. I'm Liz Heiman, and today we're going to be talking about sales operating systems. I am really excited to see you all here, and I hope that you will tell me who you are and where you're calling from. So if you look, you will find a place where you can ask questions. And so if you'll go ahead and in that spot, tell me your name and where you're from, and I'll tell you a little bit about the Sales Experts channel while we're doing that. If you have not been on the Sales Experts channel before, you're in for a big surprise. We have some of the best sales experts in the world available to you for free on demand. And I think that you will find some of the best content in the nation, maybe in the world, is on this channel. If you have any questions for the presenter, for me, go ahead and put it in the chat. I think it says ask a question, and I will answer as soon as I can. So if you have questions, if you want to share anything, go ahead and include that in the questions section. And I will be happy to stop and answer your questions or get to them just as soon as I can. I think this is way more fun when you guys participate. So go ahead and ask away. Okay, so for content, there's a lot of bonus content. If you have not been here before and you can find the attachments link. And there's several things here that I want to bring to your attention. The first is that there's content from the Sales Experts channel. There's a link to my website, the Regarding Sales website. You can have a free strategy session. There's a link to schedule 30 minutes with me, and I hope that by the time we're done with this session, you will want to do that. It's a free 30-minute session. There are a couple of great articles. There's also the slide deck. So the slide deck that you will see on the presentation, it didn't convert as well as I would like, but there's a slide deck that you can download, and if you take a moment now, there's a PDF version of the slide deck that you can download. If you have any technical questions, you can get live support. And if you, again, if you have any questions, go ahead and let me know. I did want to let you know that coming up tomorrow, you can watch Chad Burmeister, and he's going to talk about how mindset matters in sales, and mindset truly does matter. And then the day after that is my very good friend, Jamie Crosby, and she's going to be talking about hiring top talent. And I will tell you, she is an expert at hiring top talent. So let's just dive right in. So my company is called Regarding Sales, and I really believe in the power of strategy. This session is the B2B sales operating system for growing business. What I want to talk to you about is how do you grow your business using a B2B operating system? So rather than just letting things happen, how do you build a system that's going to support the growth that you want? And that's what we're really going to focus on today. So I'm Liz. My mission is to take the mystery out of sales and to make sales manageable and predictable. And I truly believe that sales can be both of those things, and that it is not a mystery, and it is not magical, and that we have some control over what's going on as sales leaders, as salespeople, as business owners. So let's really talk about how our sales operating system is going to give us that control that we need. So I want to stop and ask you, before we even start, do you feel like your sales organization is out of control? If any of you do, go ahead and say yes in the chat. I know a lot of people feel like their sales organization is out of control, that it is unpredictable and it's chaotic. Does that describe any of the things that you feel as a salesperson, sales leader, business owner? It doesn't have to be that way. A lot of people feel like, a lot of sales leaders feel like they're just dumping leads into the top of the funnel and hoping and praying that something good will come out the bottom. Again, this is not how sales needs to be. If you feel any of those things, then it is positively time for you to implement a sales operating system that will work for you. So Mark, thank you for answering. Yes, he feels like things are out of control. And yay, we're going to work on creating a system that will bring it back into control for us. So here are the things we're going to talk about today. One, what is a sales operating system? Not a common word in the world of sales, particularly in the world of startups. What are the components of a sales operating system? How does a sales operating system actually work? And how do you implement a sales operating system? So let's just dive right in and start talking about what a sales operating system is. I don't know what just happened. A sales operating system, the way I define it, is that it is the strategies, the frameworks, and systems that support your sales. What it is not is technology. So people tend to think, I'm going to put in a sales operating system. That means I need a CRM, and I need a communication automation tool, and I need a content manager. And while all of that may be true, and while all of that may support your sales operating system, it is not your sales operating system. Your sales operating system, again, it's the strategies, frameworks, and systems that will support your sales. Your technology supports those. They enable your sales team to effectively accomplish the things that they need to accomplish in order to achieve the strategies, to follow the frameworks, to implement the systems that we want to work. So let's talk a little bit about strategy. Strategy is this interesting word, and we seem to have a lot of different meanings for it, but in truth, it's really pretty simple. A strategy is a plan to get from where you are now to where you want to be. It's really that simple. You need a strategy for your business. You need a strategy for achieving company goals and individual goals. You need strategies for selling into enterprise environments and for growing key accounts. It's really, sales is not a series of fortunate accidents. It's a result of a well-planned and executed strategy. And that's the first part. The second part is frameworks. So frameworks is another word that we'll be talking about, and a framework is a set of descriptions and rules that help us understand how things work. We tend to think our sales team knows how to do everything, but the fact of the matter is there are certain frameworks that we need to put in place in order for our sales team to be really effective. I think every company should have a sales positioning framework that lays out how your company and products fit into the marketplace. I think you should have a sales communication framework, which is useful too because it helps set up the guidelines around communicating with prospects and customers, not just for sales, but for marketing and for everyone else in your team to really understand who the different players are and how you need to talk to them. My good friend, Lisa Dennis, who you can find also in the Sales Experts channel, is an expert on creating value proposition frameworks. And we'll talk a little bit about that, but they help sellers and marketers understand how to frame messaging that helps prospects see your value. A framework is a real or conceptual structure intended to serve as a support or guide for building something. And we're building a sales operating system, and we need frameworks to help us do that. So the next piece is everybody's least favorite word in the world, which is process. And it cracks me up because business leaders are so good at putting process in place around every other part of their business. They put process in place around accounting. They put process in place around manufacturing. They put process in place around development. But they don't understand that you also need process in place around sales. And process is a series of rules and steps that take you from start to finish. Like I said, most companies have one for all kinds of things, but we also need them for lead generation. We need a sales process. We need a process for responding to RFPs, a process for putting together proposals, a process for onboarding new clients. It's really the set of rules and steps that help us make sure we don't miss anything important. And yet, as much as process helps guide us to success, when I say the word process, everyone cringes. How many of you cringe when I say, let's work on your sales process? And I know it's more than a handful of you, but we're going to do this in a way that makes you feel relieved and excited about potential. The final word that I want to talk about is, before we really dive in, is system. And we're talking about building a sales operating system. A system is a group of components that work together. A sales operating system includes strategies, frameworks, processes, and technology to support it. No surprise. So let's dive in and talk about the components of a sales operating system. There are a lot of different ways you could break this down, but I'm going to ask you to bear with me and think about it the way I think about it. And that is, I think there are some critical pieces to a sales operating system. The first is you need the strategies and frameworks. Then you need systems and processes to support those. Then you need management systems, yes, systems for managing your sales team to support the sales operating systems, the processes, and to help make those strategies happen. And finally, you need a process of assessment to help you figure out, is this working? Where is it working? What do we need to change? When do we need to change it, right? And then, of course, we can revise our strategy. We can go round and round, and we can kind of bounce around in here. But all of these pieces are important for your sales operating system. So let's talk about these components individually. We're going to talk about starting with strategies and frameworks, right? The first thing your company needs, if you don't have one, is a strategic plan. And here's why. Your strategic plan helps everybody in your company to understand where you're going and how you want to get there. It explains using things like values, the way we interact with people to get to our final goals. It lists goals, individual goals for years or periods of time that everybody can try to achieve. So your strategic plan with your vision and your values and your mission and your goals and your SWOT, these are really important. A SWOT, by the way, is your assessment of your current situation. So we need a strategic plan. We also need what I call a positioning framework. So that positioning framework includes your vision and your values, but it also includes really critical pieces like your market position. Where do you fit in the market? It includes your ideal customer profile, your target markets that you want to penetrate. And it also includes your value proposition. All of these things are critically important to building sales and marketing messaging and setting your sales and marketing team up for success. Now, we tend to think that those kinds of things belong in marketing, but the truth of the matter is they are very strategic, and they need to happen at the highest levels of the company with support from sales and marketing. We need a sales communication framework, and that is understanding who we're selling to, how they define their problems, and what outcomes they need in order to be successful. And then we can figure out what language makes sense to them. So that's a sales communication framework. We need sales strategy. That is great to have a number. How are we going to hit it? We need a lead generation strategy. If we know our sales math and how many leads need to go in the top of the funnel in order to get the right amount out the bottom, then we need a strategy to get there. That's well thought out. And we need account strategies. That's strategies for penetrating new accounts and strategies for growing existing accounts. So those are the strategic elements of your sales operating system. And yes, you need all of those for your sales team to be successful. So I want to go back for just a second. How many of you actually have any of these things in place? Tell me how many of these, there are 6 of them here. How many of these do you have in place in your company right now? And I'm going to move on while you're answering me. The next part of this sales operating system is systems and processes. And you need systems and processes for all kinds of things. Remember, your processes start how you get from here to there, from start to finish, and make sure you've done everything in between that needs to happen. So we need lead generation process, and we typically put that in the hands of marketing, but it's really a sales and marketing alignment process that needs to be put in place. We need a sales process. What happens when it goes in the top of the funnel? Then how do we qualify it out? And how do we then make sure that we have covered all of our bases? And then how do we make sure that we hit all of the steps to close the business? So that sales process is really important, and all of the questions and activities that need to happen in that process. We need an opportunity management process. We need a lead follow-up process. So it's not just good enough to say, hey, salespeople, follow up. We need to help them understand what are the components, what are the best ways, what's the best messaging to follow up. We need a demo process. We need a handoff process, whether we're handing it from marketing to sales or from the demo team to the sales team or from the sales team to the delivery team. We need handoff processes that map out every step. We need hiring and compensation process, and we need onboarding processes. These are all critical parts, again, of our sales operating system. So some of you have said that you have lead generation and sales strategy in place, but maybe are missing some of those other strategic elements. How about the processes? Let's go back for just a second. How many of these processes do you have documented out and know that everybody understands what they are? Out of these, I don't know how many there are, 8 of them maybe. How many do you have in place right now? All right, so let's keep going while you guys are answering me. The next thing is management. And so management is not, again, it's not an accident. It doesn't just happen. We actually need to have a process that's consistent and predictable, and that our sales team knows is going to happen in a specific way. So we need a process for our sales meetings. If we do our sales meeting the same way every week or every month, however often we do it, and our sales team knows exactly what will happen and how they need to prepare, your sales meeting will be more successful. You also need to make sure your sales meeting engages all of your salespeople and helps to develop them. We need a process for one-on-one meetings. What do we have one-on-one meetings about? How do they run? What are the expectations for preparation by the sales manager and the salesperson? That needs to be clear. We need a coaching process, and we need to understand the difference between coaching and managing. So what is the process for coaching and helping our sales team learn and develop and thinking about ways to solve their own problems? So we need coaching process, we need evaluation process. How do I determine whether or not this salesperson is meeting expectations? So we need a process for evaluating them. They need to understand what it is. They need to understand how to prepare. And we need a funnel review process. This is really critical. Understanding how the funnel works, and I have some other webinars that talk about this, but understanding how the funnel works, what happens at different stages in the sales process, and how to review it with your salesperson so you are not always panicked at the end of every quarter is a really powerful tool. And I encourage you to make sure you have all of these things, but that your funnel review process is in place and solid. Okay, and then assessment. Okay, we've got some, I'm going to just jump around for a second. We've got some of these processes in place. That is fantastic. Okay, assessment, funnel assessment. You need to know how to read the information that comes out of your CRM and understand what it tells you. There's a tremendous amount of information to help sales leaders and to help founders and CEOs run the business and make decisions. We need a win-loss assessment. We need a profitability assessment. Too often, we just are happy to have clients and we don't really think about how profitable they are. We need a process for assessing the systems that we use every day. Are they working? Are they not working? Where are they? Where are their gaps? Where do things break down? We needed a way to assess the competency of our sales team. And we need a way to assess our leadership strengths and weaknesses and make changes so that we have the strongest possible leadership team. So those are the 4 components that I want to back up just a second so you can see how these all fit together. This is very slow moving. But so again, we just talked about strategies and frameworks, systems and processes, management and assessment. Those are how, that is your sales operating system. And that's a big thing I just described. That's not something we throw together in just a few minutes. There's an entire process for putting all of those pieces together and getting them working. So bear with me just a second as we jump to where I want to be next. Okay, so we know what the components are of a sales operating system, but do we know how a sales operating system actually works? Let's think about that and how the pieces fit together to give you the results that you're looking for. Now, I don't know if you're able to see this. If you aren't, when you download the presentation, the deck that I put for you in the attachments, you'll be able to read this better. I'm not clear how you can see it. So again, these are the components we just talked about. So your strategy, you've got your go-to-market, your sales strategy, lead generation, your systems, management, all of these pieces. And how do they then feed each other to be successful? Well, let's talk a little bit about strategy, right? If you want to implement your strategy, then you need to make sure that it has all of the pieces that you need, right? So we talked about all of the different strategies, but now we need to think about how do those strategies all fit together to help us build a system. So it's one thing to say, here's my business strategy, my strategic plan, and here, okay, so then here's my sales strategy. But those 2 things have to be really closely linked. So if in my business strategy and my positioning framework, I determine where I want to go, I have a vision for what I want my company to be and how I want it to be perceived now, and what my values are, and who my ideal customer is, now I need a sales plan, a sales strategy that helps me get there. So we start thinking about, okay, if this is the actual goal for our sales strategy, then how do we hit that number? Like, somehow we think that a number is a strategy. Okay, we did our strategy for the year, and our goal is $5 million. Ready, set, go. But it doesn't really work that way, right? So first, your salespeople need all the critical components, but then they need to know, how do you want them to get from where they are now to that number that you selected, right? Which markets are you going to focus on? Which clients are you going to focus on? Which ones are you going to grow? Which ones are you going to pursue? How are you going to target various territories or geographies? Which products are the ones that are most profitable? Which ones are the new ones that you really want to begin to entrench in the organization? How do you want them to focus their time, and what percentage of their sales do you want to go into which of these areas, right? And then you need to think about, okay, so that's one piece. Now let's think about that lead generation strategy. So if I've broken this how do I hit my numbers into a clear sales strategy with a really clear picture of how many leads I need for each sales rep, for each product, for each territory, then I can begin to think about, how am I going to provide the leads for those? So if I need this many sales qualified leads, how many marketing qualified leads do I need, and how am I going to get them, and how am I going to make sure that I get the right leads as a marketing team to support what the sales strategy has dictated. And the better that sales strategy, the better able your sales team, your marketing team is to support your sales team, and the better able your sales team is to execute it. So do you see how these pieces all fit together? They're not individual strategies that we throw out there. They all build on each other to create a vision and a plan that everybody can follow and execute successfully. And it helps us all be going the same direction at the same time. I could tell you stories about founders who thought everybody understood what they wanted, and yet their sales team was off doing crazy things because they didn't really understand. So we want to make sure that we give them the best understanding that we can. Systems. So systems we talked about, right? We talked about what is in the different systems, but again, how do these systems fit together? It's not enough to just map out the process. Then we have to make sure that the whole team understands how they fit into following that process. And we have to make sure that those handoffs that we talked about are all followed, and that no one is acting as a lone ranger, but they're all working together as a team to make those systems function together. So if we think about our customer journey, from the time they have their first introduction to us, whether it's a phone call or whether it's a piece of content, until they finish receiving the delivery of their product and using it, if we think about that entire journey, then we can think about the system that supports them through that, right? If we only think about individual processes, which are super important, but we don't think about how they fit together to create that buyer journey, then we're missing the point. So our systems need to support our customer and their success, and they need to support the sales team, and they need to support the delivery team. So these systems all need to work together and be thought of as one unit, one entity, a sales operating system that ties all the way, starts all the way with marketing and ties all the way through to delivery. Because again, if delivery isn't successful, our future sales are limited. So we want to make sure that all of those processes fit together into lovely systems that function properly. The next thing I want to talk about how it fits together is management. So one of the things, and we talked about in the last little section, we talked about expectations and clarity and consistency. And one of the things that we find is most difficult is consistency around management. And so one of the ways we deal with a sales team that is, I've heard described as a bunch of cowboys, or managing a sales team is like herding cats. Well, part of that is true because of the personality of salespeople, right? A lot of them tend to be independent, which we need them to be. They also tend to be gregarious and outgoing, and that can make them a little difficult to manage. And it is pretty hard to manage salespeople, but it is easier to manage systems and processes and expectations. So as a management team, whether it's sales managers or a CRO or it's the founder, doesn't really matter, because what's important is how we make sure we follow the process and create a management system that fits together and is consistent. So for instance, if we say, hey, what's really important is that we are forward-thinking, we treat our customers with respect, and we have a positive growing process, then my sales management team needs to help support that. They need to make sure that the sales meetings do all of the things the sales meetings are supposed to do every week, every month, the same way, with solid expectations. And we need to make sure that those one-on-ones happen, that they don't get pushed aside. If we want to prevent fires and chaos, then we need to make sure that those meetings happen and they happen consistently. The one-on-ones, the coaching meetings, and yes, those funnel reviews that I talked about, right? One of the things that I see happen so often is at the end of every quarter, we're scrambling, and all of the close dates are pushing, and everybody's in a panic. And what I will tell you is very often that panic is the result of not managing the sales funnel or the sales pipeline from start to finish. What we do as sales managers is focus on what's going to close now. Well, if we focus on what's going to close now, we will always be in a panic. What we need to do is make time every single month with every single sales rep to look at their entire funnel, all of their leads, make sure that they're following the sales process, that they're meeting with all of the buying influencers that they need to meet with, and that they are moving these leads through the funnel, qualifying out the ones they don't need, getting new ones in the top, and making sure they have a balanced funnel that's going to deliver at the end of the quarter and at the end of the year. And if we only look at what's happening at the very bottom of the funnel, we miss the fact that our salespeople are missing critical steps. They're not talking to enough people. They're not clarifying the buying process repeatedly. They're not asking the right questions, and so we get surprises. So the better management does of creating a system and following it and reinforcing it, the more successful they will be in getting consistent, predictable results. The less consistent we are in management, the less predictable our results are, the more often we have fires, the harder it is to keep our salespeople engaged and focused. It's really critical that our management team has those systems in place to successfully manage. And again, what are we managing against? Well, we're making sure they're following all the processes and that the systems are working. We're also making sure that we're moving toward our strategic initiatives, right? That strategy helps guide our management as much as the processes and systems do. They all fit together to help this operating system work. And the final piece of this is assessment. So what happens if every quarter we get to the end of the quarter and we don't hit our numbers? Then it's time to stop and say, look, this is the third quarter in a row. What is happening? Not who failed. Where in the process does it break down? Does it break down because we aren't following the sales process? Does it break down because we're not getting enough good leads in the top of the funnel, because we're not qualifying out poor leads? Does it break down because we're not asking the right questions? Does it break down because the handoffs aren't working? Where does it break? Does it break down because our managers aren't managing consistently? We need to look at all of these things and figure out what's working and what's not working and fix it. We also need to look at our funnel, and I think the funnel is the most powerful tool in assessing a sales team's effectiveness and potential success. Because I can look at the shape, I can look at the velocity, I can look at the ratios, and I can see where the problems are. Now, if you want to hear more about that, I've got a webinar that talks you through that completely. But it's powerful stuff, you guys. And the better your system works, the better your sales operating system flows, and everybody does what they're supposed to do with consistency, the better you're able to use your funnel to predict and to identify problems and to solve problems. So that assessment piece is critical. And again, are we doing the things that lead us toward our strategic goals? And if we're not, then we need to make changes. But it all works together. They're not independent. It's a system. So how do you implement it? Sorry, let me give you that beautiful purple slide. How do you implement a sales operating system? Well, first, we have to create it. And that is a conscious effort to map out all of these different pieces. It doesn't just happen. It has to be written down. It has to be thought through. It has to be argued about. We have to come up with what are all of these pieces. And if you don't have time to do all of them, which are the most important ones for you right now? The second is you have to teach it to everyone. And when I say everyone, I mean you have to teach it to your sales team. Well, first you have to teach it to the leadership, and they have to buy in. Because if leadership doesn't buy in, It undermines your sales operating system. Next, you need to teach it to the managers. Then after that, you need to teach it to the salespeople. And then you have to teach it to everybody else who touches the process. We often think, oh, we're going to put sales on an island by itself and teach them how to do it and expect this magic to happen, but it doesn't. Sales interacts with accounting, sales interacts with engineering, sales interacts with the delivery team, the implementation team, the marketing team. Everybody needs to understand how this sales operating system works and what their role is in it. Everyone in your company has a role in the sales process, and if they don't understand what their role is, then it's time to make sure they understand. And I think you'd be surprised if you walked around your business and you said, hey, what's your role in the sales process? How many people would tell you, I'm not involved in the sales process? But in fact, everyone is, because sales is not just the part where we're selling. It's the part where we're making sure our customers are happy and things are working so we can sell more. The next piece is setting up expectations. It's really important that you set the expectations and you make sure they follow them. The third is that everyone uses it. Nobody is let off the hook. Everyone uses it, and we all use it the same way. And the final is that reinforcement, which comes from the management team and the management systems. Oh, well, I just explained all of these to you. So to create, you need high-level strategies and frameworks, processes and systems, management process, and assessment tools and plans. And to teach, you need to teach senior leadership, managers, sellers, and marketers, and support staff. And again, set expectations. What are the rules and the timelines, the responsibilities, the measurements, and the consequences for not following? Using it. Everyone uses it. Leadership looks at the funnel. They don't just ask somebody to tell them. Managers use it. Sellers and marketers use it. Support staff uses it. And you reinforce. You review, you comment, you meet, and everyone uses it. So you don't ever, again, let anybody off the hook. All right. So a sales operating system is not static. The reason we have the assessment process is so we can continue to change it as the world around us changes. It's never going to stay the same, but you still need one, and you still need to revise it when it's time to revise it. You have to reinforce this cultural change. Salespeople are used to doing what they want to do the way they want to do it in many cases, and support staff is not accustomed to considering themselves part of the sales team. So you have to reinforce that culture over and over and over again with your actions, with your words. So what's the result? Why do all this? We do this for 4 reasons. One is we have, as a result, a predictable revenue stream. Wouldn't that be glorious? How many of you wish you had a predictable revenue stream? And then you can manage the unmanageable. Sales teams are hard to manage, but when you have systems and processes in place, you can actually manage the unmanageable. There are fewer mistakes, fewer problems, fewer fires, and you will have more sales revenue as a result because everyone will be following the steps that we know work. So that's what I have to tell you about sales operating systems. We're at 10:38. We have just a few minutes. I would love your questions, your comments, your disagreements, anything that you want to share with me. And while I'm waiting for you to do that, again, I want to make sure you know that you can get a free sales strategy session with me. I would be happy to talk to you about your sales operating system, what pieces are missing, what things you need to put in place. There's completely no obligation. There are no expectations. It doesn't cost anything. And I love to have those conversations. It makes me happy. So make my day and schedule some time. So if you look in the attachments, you will find an attachment that says free strategy session. If you click on that, there's a link and you can schedule some time with me. I encourage you all to do that. If you want to call my office, you can reach me at 775-303-9617. My email is liz@regarding-sales.com. I'm happy to answer your questions via email. You can also find me on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, let me know where we met. I get so many connections from people whose first words are they want to sell me something that I'm getting more and more hesitant to connect. But I would love to connect with you. So tell me where we met and connect with me and follow me. There's great content on my website and on the Heiman.com website, lots of articles that I've written and that my partner and sister, Heiman, have written about sales and sales operating systems. So if you go to LinkedIn and you follow me, you will see all of that, and you can read those as appropriate. So I don't see any questions from the audience. So I am going to I'm going to let you go. If you have questions, please email me, liz@regarding-sales.com. Connect with me on LinkedIn and tell me that you were here and that you have a question for me, or schedule a meeting. I hope you guys have a fabulous, fabulous day, and happy selling, you guys. Take care.